Okay, now Moses, he goes back to Pharaoh in Egypt and he says, God says, you've got to turn my people loose so that they can go worship me in the wilderness. And we all know the story of the 10 plagues that came on Egypt that basically finally caused Pharaoh to relent, and acknowledge that there was another God, God Almighty, who is now known as Yahweh, or the 4 letters that we believe are at least pronounced Yahweh. And so what happens is Yahweh is now going to fight on behalf of his people. He's going to subdue the powers that are oppressing them so that they can become the people that they were always meant to become. So he's saving the people. He's redeeming them from slavery. He's making sure that the price is paid in order to deliver them from this enslavement by, of course, the most influential nation of their time. And so what happens is the 10 plagues, Pharaoh finally relents and lets them go to worship their God, of course, which is a way out of the land of Egypt, because the land of Egypt has been all contaminated by the worship of idols. And so what happens is God is going to find a place where he can have an idol-free zone. You have to remember, at this time, there is no nation on earth that doesn't serve some sort of idol of one kind or another. And what God is doing through Moses is he's going to lead Egypt out into the wilderness. In the wilderness, he's basically going to have to take the 400 years of their enslavement in Egypt and kind of change that mindset and change that people and show them what it means to serve the one and only the creator of heaven and earth. And that's what takes place out there in Egypt, and with Moses leading the people out. And of course, the crossing of the Red Sea is kind of this momentous point where the forces of evil are after the people of God to stop this, this departure. And God basically steps in and wipes out the army and sets the people free on the other side of the Red Sea. It was what Paul calls it. He calls it a baptism into Moses. In other words, they're no longer going to be identified as the slaves of Egypt. From now on, they're going to be known as the people of God, as defined by Moses. And so Moses becomes like the George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and, Benjamin Franklin and all these John Adams, all these wonderful figures that, talk about American being established as a separate and unique nation from the Europe, and especially Great Britain. And in the same way, Israel is declaring its freedom in that baptism into Moses through the Red Sea, and now they come out the other side, a new nation with, of course, now a whole new set of difficulties, and how do we proceed from here? So he's going to give them a constitution, a national constitution that defines who they are and what's expected of them. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the next video. Thanks.